Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, DJ Youngs. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Of course, I always like to say it all, just to give you all the salutations, no matter what time, no matter what place you are listening to this podcast. Thanks for tuning in with me today. I'm really excited about today. Not because of too much of topics, but today is actually my first day getting to record at night. I usually record during the day, and in the studio I use in my home. It's kind of like some light coming in through this one window most of the day, so defeats the purpose of me turning on my LED lights and stuff down here. But it's nighttime that I'm recording finally, and I like this ambiance, man. I got some great things going in here, good vibes. I got the content. I'm excited about this episode. Rundown of the show today, always going to start with new news per usual, okay? And then I had this idea of trying to see if I can give some insight on what some of the teams that are at the bottom of the division could do to get to the top. And with doing that research and actually looking into that, I realized it was going to be more, I already kind of knew, but it's a lot of information, right? So, of course, there's no way I can get to all divisions and really discuss what's going on in them in one segment. So what I'm going to do is, this is actually kind of going to turn into something, a bit of a series. I'm going to start off with the AFC, probably get through half of the AFC and then continue on the next episode, then move on to the NFC. But we'll see how that one goes. We're going to go with the flow for sure. Then I'm going to give you guys, we're still doing my top rankings. Last week, it was last week, but the last episode you guys got was for the D linemen. Now we're coming back to the offensive side, and I'm going to go to receivers. And if you checked in last episode, you heard me say that I'd be kind of fluctuating with the number on the rankings based off the position. So, of course, with the receivers, there's no way I could do just the top 10. That one had to go back to the top 20, and it still was hard. I still had to decide who wasn't going to make the cut. So, tune in for that. You want to hear about that. And then last, I want to talk about some of these debates we heard this week in regards to what's going on in the NFL, things that a lot of people just wanted to talk about. So I'm going to take some of those ideas and kind of give my information. Some of them are things that happen in the news. Some things are just what a lot of sports people just decide to debate on. So pick and choose and kind of tell you where I'm getting those from and things of that nature. All right. But yeah, that's what the show's going to look like today. So we're going to jump into now new news. A few things have happened. Again, I do this twice a week. So a couple things have happened since the last episode. Nothing too crazy. But the biggest one is definitely the 17-game regular season in the NFL. So yes, this fall will be the first 17-game regular season in NFL history. The new collective bargaining agreement, also known as CBA for people that don't know that, that was negotiated and signed last year, so in 2020, and it gave the option for the NFL to go to 17 games as early as this season, provided that they, negotiated a media deal or something like that, which we all know they did. That was reported about a month ago, right? Okay, so breaking it down a little bit more. Like I said, this was clearly looked like they didn't wait at all because they said, 17 games as early as 2021. Bet, let's do it. The owners just voted on it on Tuesday, which, I mean, I think everybody kind of knew that's what was going to happen, regardless. If you listen closely, a couple episodes, I think I even said it. I didn't want to say it too early until it was official, but I did mention it because we all knew that that's what was going to happen, mostly, if we're keeping up. So, since the CBA runs through 2030, this basically means that this is kind of going to be the norm for a while. You might actually forget that there was 16-game seasons, just like a lot of people that don't know or forgot that there was 14-game seasons. All right. The Super Bowl, just so you know, they're not going to add it at the beginning. This is going to be a game added on the end, pushing everything back instead of starting everything early. So the Super Bowl, which was scheduled for February 6, 2022 originally, before implementing the 7 games officially, it's now expected to be played February 13th, 2022. So just 1 week out. The team still only get one bye week, being that this is being that the regular season is played 18 weeks straight. Okay, so I think there was some, insight on trying to figure out more games, more time, so they get more breaks or anything like that. Well, no, it's just that they added on the end. For them to get 2 bye weeks, that means they would literally have to add 2 weeks. So there'll be an extra week that teams could have off plus that extra game. All right. More info on that. They'll get 3 preseason games, being that as in that collective bargaining agreement that they got going until 2030. It also says there can't be more than 20 games played in the season. So being that there's 17 regular season now, and then 3 preseason, of course that doesn't include postseason, as we all know. The current plan for that 17 game is to match interconference divisions that played each other 2 years ago. Which means that the AFC East teams will play NFC East teams, NFC North teams will play AFC West teams, NFC South teams would play AFC South teams, NFC West teams will play AFC North teams. So basically to determine the matchups, you're looking at the pair and seeing which team finished in the spot standings of their division in 2020. So, who came in first, second, third, and fourth, they'll be coinciding with the other division and playing that person of that same number. So, for example, the Washington football team would who finished first in the NFC East would play against Buffalo Bills, who finished in the AFC East. And at first, I was going to say, to give you that idea, I was going to say those, but really I just want to say all the teams. It's pretty exciting. So, the Washington football team play the Bills. New York Giants play the Dolphins. Dallas Cowboys play the Patriots. The Eagles are going to play the Jets. The Seahawks play the Steelers. Rams are going to play the Ravens. Cardinals are going to play the Browns. The 49ers are going to play the Bengals. The Saints are going to play the Titans. The Buccaneers are going to play the Colts. The Panthers are going to play the Texans. The Falcons are going to play the Jaguars. The Packers are going to play the Chiefs. The Bears are going to play the Raiders. The Vikings will be playing the Chargers. The Lions are going to play the Broncos. Okay? So that's going to be the lineup for that last game. Yes, this is 17 games, so that means it won't be even as far as what it looks like home versus away games. The way they're going to do it is they're basically just starting with, with this extra game, all the AFC teams will be the teams that, I think it's all the AFC teams. Is that what I heard? Yeah. AFC teams will host the 17th game in 2021, and then in 2022 it'll go to the NFC, then 2023 back to the AFC, and it'll rotate like that, okay? Home versus away. I have my thoughts, like I said, and some other things, but of course I'm going to leave that for letting you guys know that that's going to be in my debate in the last segment. So stay tuned on what's all into that. Also, hey, no more 8 and 8s, right? We're going to have to get used to looking at some new type of brackets. Dang it, why am I not brackets? Wins versus losses. You know what I mean. But yeah, that's that on that. I'm going to save the rest for later. Also, NFL is expecting full stadiums for the 2021 season. This came from the commissioner, Roger Goodell. He said earlier this week, all of us in the NFL want to see every one of our fans back. Football is simply not the same without fans, and we expect to have full stadiums in the upcoming season. So basically, some of these expectations are kind of hard to officially say out like that because the league never established an attendance cap while they were playing during the heart of the pandemic this past season. They really just deferred it to the individual teams along with their states and local legislation. So that's why you saw certain places like Florida and everything like that have a few more people, but nobody was truly at 100. So for him to come out and say, hey, expect 100 people, then 100% people, and you don't know what is going on in those cities, as far as what's allowed or not. I think it was, who was it, the Rams that couldn't even play in their stadium. Was it the Rams? The 49ers, I think, had to play in the Cardinals stadium at the end of last season. Certain states got a little more restriction on that, but we'll see. Seattle Seahawks gave veteran guard Gabe Jackson a new 3-year, $22.575 million contract after acquiring him in the trade with the Las Vegas Raiders earlier this month. Gabe Jackson, I like Gabe. So giving you some information on him and kind of what he did this past season. Gabe was someone that allowed only 2 sacks while he was playing with the Seahawks. Actually the Raiders. He was playing with the Raiders. Sorry, he just got to the Seahawks. But yeah, it was a great 3rd round pick that Oakland picked up in 2014 out of Mississippi State. Someone that they, let go, but he was able to find another location clearly as quick as possible. So shout out to Gabe. Shout out to the Seahawks. Excited to see where that relationship goes. Another acquisition, a former Giant quarterback, Colt McCoy, signs a 1-year deal with the Arizona Cardinals. So clearly he's the backup for Kyler Murray now, as we haven't heard anything about him starting now. Now, if you ask me, Colt McCoy, mostly known for his time at Texas, the University of Texas. Got drafted 3rd round to Cleveland back in 2010. From there, went to the Washington. He went to San Francisco. Then he went to Washington football team. Then he went to the Giants. And now he's in his new destination. Most he played was that 2nd year in Cleveland with 13 games, which he had 265 completions on 463 attempts, which put him at a pretty low 57.2 completion percentage. Yes, that's over 50, but it's not what the doctor ordered for your quarterback, your starting quarterback. But he did get 14 touchdowns with that, along with 11 interceptions. Just kind of let you know. And then, what have you done for me lately? Last season, he had 4 games played with the Giants, 40 passes completed, had him at a 60.6 completion percentage, and then just 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Nothing special. I guess reliability, somebody that's a veteran that's been around a little bit to make it happen. Because, dang, I can't believe he got drafted back in 2010. Has it really been that long? Wow. Who knew? But not saying I don't want to see Colt McCoy, but I'm hoping that Kyler Murray stays healthy. So when I say hopefully we don't have to see him on the field, I'm hoping that there's no ill will coming to anyone else. All right. What else we got on here, man? Left tackle Colton Miller has signed a 3-year extension with the Las Vegas Raiders, worth more than $18 million per year, including $42.6 million guaranteed at signing. This makes him part of the top 5 highest paid offensive tackles in the league. Of course, if he hits all those incentives, that's why it's more than 18, based off that. But we will see about that. Giving you some information on Colton. Let's see, what all has Colton done for us lately? So Colton was drafted back in 2018, 1st round to Oakland out of UCLA. Just past season on 961 snaps. He only had 4 penalties and 2 sacks allowed. Not bad. I think that's a real good pickup for them. Strong kid. Still young, only 25. Big solid tackle, man. That was a good choice right there for not Seattle. I'm about to go back to Seattle, but the Las Vegas Raiders. Okay, now going over back to Seattle, a defensive tackle, Jaron Reed has agreed to a 1-year deal worth up to $7 million with the Kansas City Chiefs. He was a former Seattle Seahawk. Now he's with the Chiefs. I knew they were going to reach out for another defensive lineman to add on that line with Jones and the rest of those guys. So this was an easy $7 million pickup. Nothing too wild or too crazy. But, I mean, Jared Reed is a solid guy. He came in 2016 out of Alabama. You know, Alabama breeds him well. Okay, in the second round, though. But, yeah, since he's been here, he has 22 sacks on his career. Just last season, through all 16 games he played, 6.5, which is a fair number coming up from what he started off with because he wasn't getting back there too often. His best season was in 2018 when he had 10.5 sacks. Definitely aggressive, getting better. He was injured back in 2019 and then slowly worked his way back in. And now he is where he is. So, Jaron Reed, Seattle Seahawks, formerly, and now he's with Kansas City. All right. Update. After 3 more being added this past Sunday, the count is now up to 19 civil lawsuits against quarterback Deshaun Watson on behalf of women who allege inappropriate behavior and sexual assault during massage sessions. Another tough topic. Everything that keeps coming up. Another one we can discuss later, just to, put a little bit more out there, I guess, or just thought-wise, what it means kind of for the organization, where I see, from his perspective, from the world's perspective, because, of course, when stuff like this comes out, you are now on society judgment, even if we hear from you or not. So we'll discuss that a little bit more. But that's what I got on the NFL. Moving over to NCAA and the NFL, I guess, mixed, because we talk about some of this draft stuff real quick. But really, it's just that quarterback Justin Fields ran a 4.44 seconds in his 40-yard dash at Ohio State's Pro Day. I wonder, how many minds do this change, if it changes any minds at all? What do you think about him? He's 6'3", 228 pounds. While he was with the Buckeyes, he passed for 5,373 yards, 63 touchdowns, only 9 interceptions. That was all done in 2 years. Why is this 4.44? First of all, if you listen to Jay-Z, dope. 4.44 is. But how does this compare? Like, what are we looking at? Is he just fast? Oh, does that mean he's a skill player? Is that fast? If you're unfamiliar with it, kind of give you an idea of how that translates over to someone similar to his style. Jalen Hurts ran a 4.54 in his 40 at his combine. So that kind of shows you that, being point one is a pretty big difference when it comes to 40-yard dashes. Okay, so he was moving, he was blazing, he threw well on his pro day. A lot of great things seeing there. The only people that it's like, of course, coming down to where he might go. Is he going to go to the Jets? Are the Jets thinking that? Or are they sold on the BYU standout? So would he be the next best for San Francisco to pick up? Is this the quarterback that they want to invest in to be their franchise quarterback and get rid of Jimmy? Or are they going to stick with Trey Lance? So, I mean, is this, being that the coaches was there, I did hear that the scouts and coaching staff from San Francisco was at the pro day, but, I mean, was that just for show? Was it just to make sure that they made the right decision? I don't know. I see the different reactions and debates around the sports world as far as media-wise on what their thoughts is. I think I'll save mine for later. I think I'll talk about it a little bit in a later segment. Not much, but I mean, I don't have much to say is what I'm saying, but we're definitely going to check that out. Vanderbilt announces that they have a $300 million project to improve football and basketball facilities and a new Vandy United fund to raise money for the athletic programs. So apparently most of it, like I think 200 or so, yeah, I believe it was like 200 is from the school, and then another 100 million is like from the faculty and former students and people that live around there. Like they basically crowdfunded it or something like that to I guess get some new stuff going in there and build it up. Vanderbilt SEC team, athletic wise, I'm not really sure. So maybe they're trying to. What I mean by I'm not really sure how big they are, how well they are in the SEC. But I mean, at the same time, when was the last time we really just found Vanderbilt as a threat in the college football playoff world or anything of that nature? So I'm pretty sure, when you're investing like that, not only do you want just nice things from the school, I mean, the people around you appreciate you. Of course, you want your place to look good, but it could also be a tactic to, of course, reel in some new prospects. And for whatever reason, also in the news, quarterback Trevor Lawrence, the expected number one pick in next month's NFL draft, is declining the chance to attend the draft in Cleveland, Ohio, which is in person this year, and is instead choosing to watch it at Clemson with a few friends and family, and I'm sure staff members of the team. I guess people just want to talk about that. I don't see anything wrong with it. This is something that I don't have to wait till later. He knows. I mean, we all know, right? I mean, it's not of we're trying to see. I mean, maybe some people do like being there in the moment. I can understand that. It's kind of like an award show, possibly. I've never been, but I'm just assuming, even if you will know. Because, see, at award shows, I want to say there's a 50-50 chance. Sometimes they don't tell them who won. So, of course, they're coming to see if they won. If they won, they want to be able to be there, accepted. But a lot of times, they tell them ahead of time. So, people know, right? And then when they don't show up, it's just because they really couldn't make it for whatever reason. But so in this case, of course, we don't know, but we know. If that makes sense. Trevor Lawrence going number one, so of course he's trying to chill at home. He's not trying to fly anywhere, go anywhere else, go to Ohio to be there for that night, dressed up, risk him and his family. I'm pretty sure they all are more comfortable with each other than they will be at an event like this. Even if he's not, he's getting drafted regardless. So enjoy that with your family, man. Good for you. I appreciate that because I feel like some other people might feel that they would have been pressured in that situation. I'm glad you don't, Trevor. All right, but that is what I have for new news. Of course, again, like I said, I'm going to take a couple of these a little more in depth later on. Also, coming up next, we'll discuss some AFC teams that are at the bottom and what the moves they've been making and moves they need to make in order to get back in the running to try to beat their division in order to make it to the playoffs next year. Also, like I said, the receiver is now 20 instead of 10. So with that being said, yes, that means I'm only doing 10. It'll be the 20 through 11 range. And then you're going to get the other ones in the next episode. And then we're going to end up with the debates of the week. But right now, it is time for a short commercial break. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
welcome back. All right, I hope you enjoyed that short commercial break. We just finished talking about the new news. That's what I went over first in segment 1, as always. Next up, what we're going to have is a little discussion about teams that came in last in their division and what some moves they're possibly making and that they possibly need to make in order to make it to the top and get a chance at the playoffs and eventually the bowl. All right. We're going to start off in the AFC. Again, like I mentioned earlier, being that this is pretty much information jam-packed, I think that I might be able to only get to 2 conferences, but I'll try to get to more just so that, for the excitement. I know everybody wants to hear about their teams and information on them and what's all going on, because sometimes it's hard to even keep up with everything that's going on in the NFL. Like, literally, I know we hear about signings every day, but I guarantee you it's not even all of them. Those are just the ones that are worth writing about or ones people are curious about type of stuff, because there's a lot of other ones going on underneath with people filling their rosters and backups and stuff like that. But, of course, we'll hear about the big-time starters, right? But, yeah, so starting off in the AFC East, all right? So going to give pretty much the floor, what happened this past season and where everybody landed, and then we'll discuss from there. So the winner of the AFC East this past season, 2020, was the Buffalo Bills with a 13-3 record. In their division, they were not defeated. They went 6-0 and only lost 2 games in the entire conference anyway. Went on to play Kansas City Chiefs in the conference championship and lost. But, hey, they'll stick around for quite some time, being that they have an amazing quarterback. All right? Miami Dolphins, who are up on the upcoming, especially after this draft, once they make some additions to help out Tua. They came in second with a 10-6 record. Underneath them was the New England Patriots with a 7-9 record. Struggle season for them. First time coming underneath 500 in quite some time. First time missing the playoffs in quite some time. A lot of firsts for them. So, of course, they made plenty of moves this past season this current offseason, as we've seen them spend a ridiculous amount of money, right? And in last place, with unfortunate no surprise, is the New York Jets, who went 2-14, which apparently 2 was possibly on accident. But more importantly, they went 0-6 in their division. Why is that so bad, right? So for people that may not understand, maybe you're new to football or just don't pay too much attention to the details in the background, you just watch it. The way you get into the playoffs is by winning your division. When you win your division, you get to go to the playoffs automatically. Of course, there's other spots that are open for a few more teams, and they get in through wild card rounds. But if you win your division, you're guaranteed to go to the playoffs. Okay, so instead of leaving it to chance, we're just having a good record, because don't get me wrong, some of these divisions are pretty tight on the fight. Specifically, like I mentioned last week as well, AFC North division, they all had pretty incredible records close by each other, minus one team. So it's tough in those divisions when you got to see someone not make it because it's full and everybody's doing good. But in this case, this is not the same situation. The Jets were obviously in dead last. So this kind of shows that they need a lot. And when I mean dead last is they didn't only lose to their division very badly. They lost to their conference very badly. They won only one single conference game. One game at home, one game away. That's how they got their 2. So one of the wins was against the conference, one was without. But either way it goes, we knew the Jets needed a lot of work, right? Let's just say. So defense for one case, they weren't the worst. I guess that's it, or second or third worst. There were definitely teams that were worse than them, but they fell on the lower end of the spectrum. This is true. And this is coming after they lose their star defensive player, right? So what they need to do on defense is possibly get some more action on their secondary. As we know, they got some good D linemen there, and then of course in the pickup as well. But Quentin Williams, definitely defensive tackle. That was a good pickup for them. He had 7 sacks this past season. Neville Hewitt had the most tackles. He had 134 tackles. And then Pierre Desire had 3 interceptions. So, I mean, it's a work in progress, I guess you can say. But when it comes to what I believe is the true reason on why they couldn't win a game, even though there were some pretty decent battles in there, is that they don't score. They don't have the points. They don't get the points. They scored the least amount of points this season, 243 total during the regular season. You can't win if you don't put points on the board. You can stop people, even if they had a superb defense. You can't stop without putting points. So that's why there's been all these confusion on if they were going to keep Sam Darnold after they won 2 games and weren't getting Trevor anymore. Sam Darnold threw for 2,200 yards this season with 9 touchdowns. It's not good enough. QBR was below 50s. It was actually 40.3. This is on a scale of 100 people. He failed. Their leading rusher was Frank Gore, which nothing against him. I'm rooting for him because I love that he's breaking all of these records, and I love seeing just his excellence in what he's doing, how long he can go at this. But Frank Gore, that can't be your number one guy at this. Not in this year. I'm sorry. Frank Gore might as well be the Tom Brady of running backs. He's 37 years old, turning 38 before the season starts. Literally drafted back in 2005. I wouldn't be surprised if he's like one of the top 3 oldest people in the league as far as skill players. But again, not taking nothing away from him, but that's not what you want. And then with that, on top of that, he only had 653 yards and 2 touchdowns this season. Could that have something to do with the O-line? Quite possibly. Receivers. You know, your number one receiver clearly getting jammed up. You have to find somebody else because they locked down your number one receiver. And Roddy, who do you have left? Jamison Crowder actually led the way in receiving yards for them with about 700, 6 touchdowns on 59 catches. Okay. That's okay. I don't think that should be the number one. That should be the highest. Nothing to take. Again, I don't ever want to just rip anybody apart, but Jameis Crowder, the slot receiver out of Duke, 2015, round 4. We gotta get some more in there. Yeah, that shouldn't be the most. This is somebody that's never had a 1,000-yard season, and he's been in the league since 2015. That's plenty of time. Plenty of time. Granted, he was with Washington for his first 4, and now with the Jets, the last 2. So, who's throwing it to him, right? The quarterback plays a big part. Quarterback clearly decides who gets the stats, right? So, definitely could be they far. But, I mean, if you have some weapons, they would use them. I'm sure of it. Also, over there with him, who they just drafted last season, will not stand out in the league, but stand out in college. Denzel Mims out of Baylor. They drafted him in the 2nd round, 59th pick. He was pretty banged up this season, though, so only played 9 games. 44 targets, caught 23 of them. No touchdowns. He got about 15 first downs. Need a little bit more from a 2nd rounder. And, not a first, but even a 2nd rounder, if you're, starting in this game, then I would expect that they wanted a little bit more, right? But, again, the Jets are in the position, remind you, they have the 2nd overall pick this year. So, they have a chance. They have a chance to make it happen for themselves as far as getting a new quarterback, possibly a new skill player, which we all believe that they're going to get a quarterback, right? Okay, just making sure it's not just me and I'm not crazy. They are going to get a quarterback, and they did pretty well this, what do you call this thing? During this free agency time, in order to pick up a few things that should help them, right? In regards to such as defensive end standout Carl Lawson, The DN, he got the 3-year deal for $45 million, reported like a couple weeks ago. So he's joining that line with Quinn Williams. They're going to handle their business. They, again, focusing on his D-line. That's great. They added a veteran receiver that has history with making some things happen in Corey Davis from Tennessee. You know, he got his 3-year, $37.5 million deal. Is, you know, another great deal. He's actually spoken out and said good things about Sam Darnold. He had said something along the lines of Sam's that guy. The guy that I guess he's trying to refer to as being the starter for the Jets, or should be the starter for the Jets. Who knows? Remember, as mentioned, Corey Davis came out of West Michigan in 2017, first round, 5th pick. This guy can catch. Only unfortunate thing that, you know, gets scrutinized is that is that he doesn't have a 1,000-yard season, right? But he gets the ball in the end zone. You know, he definitely can score. For whatever reason, has one fumble each year he's been in the league, but just one, and he doesn't always lose it. Okay, but that is good that they went out and got a receiver, right? Should be able to do something with that. And a running back, I think they got a very good running back. I just spoke on this as well recently. Is Tevin Coleman, the running back from the 49ers. They got him on a 1-year deal. I think it's a very good pickup there. They got Keelan Cole, our receiver. Picked him up from the Jaguars on a 1-year deal. So giving whoever they bring in here someone to throw it to. That's good. Getting these players, these receivers, getting Tevin. Hopefully you get some more points and don't be last for points again. All right. Next, I'm going to go over to the AFC North. So AFC North was one I mentioned was a really tough division. So what did it look like? Pittsburgh Steelers had an amazing season. Some way, somehow, went off. Again, not taken down. I used to be, kind of a Pittsburgh fan, but I don't know if it was because of the girl I was dating who was a Pittsburgh fan. I'm not going to lie. That might have been part of the persuasion. But regardless, they went 12-4. Okay, led that division, went undefeated longer than any other team this past season. So it was good for them, but they ended up losing, getting knocked out in the playoffs and everything. Directly underneath them, going 11-5, are both Baltimore Ravens and Cleveland Browns. They both went 11-5, so literally one game difference between the Pittsburgh and these two teams. Okay, division-wise, Pittsburgh and Baltimore both went 4-2, and then Cleveland went 3-3. All right, so very tough, very close. Now there's the outlier. All right, the Cincinnati Bengals, who were last year overall, got the first pick in the draft, got the stud in Joe Burrow. They got 4 wins. They went 4-11, 1 tie. 4-11, 1 tie. This is the outlier. Not even close to the 11-5, 12-4. They went 3-5 at home, 1-6-1 away. Only won one single game in their division. 4 games won in the conference. Not the ideal look, but like I said, Joe Burrow, in the few games he played, didn't play a whole season, did 2,688 passing yards, 13 touchdowns, over 50 QBR. That's fair. I'm glad to see that from him. Joe Mixon, he only had 428 rushing yards. With definitely more from him. He had 3 touchdowns. And then T. Higgins was their top receiver with 908 receiving yards on 6 touchdowns. Okay. How did they look on defense? Well, again, not last, like I said about the Jets, but not at the top, closer to the bottom. They're actually even below the Jets. Surprising enough, yards per game, defensive wise, they allowed was averaging around 389. Okay, so Again, not the worst because there was someone that allowed 419. Big difference. That's per game. But defense, again, I don't know if that is necessarily the issue at hand, being that, again, they were in the bottom 5 in scoring. Again, this is a game of inches, as everyone knows, which means it's definitely a game of points. And being that this isn't like basketball, we're going by 1s, 2s, and 3s. You're going by 6, 7s mostly, sometimes 2s and 3s. But again, we all know how the big of a difference that 3 makes, that field goal, when it's time to make that decision to go for a kick instead of going for it on 4th and 2 or something along those lines. So that tells you how important it is to get the points on the board. Okay? Bengals, you got Joe Burrow. That's a good start. Okay? Joe's a stud. I expect great things from Joey. All right? So what did they do recently? To pick up the defense, they got Trey Hickerson, the DN from New Orleans, which, again, genius. That's great. Trey was on my top DL list last week. He got a 4-year deal with them, so he should be there for a while. But that is a great pickup. He didn't have many before his breakout season, so I guess you're kind of hoping that he stays consistent. Makes sense to me. Who else we get? You get some protection. You got Riley Reif, okay, former Vikings offensive tackle. He's 32, a good age. Y'all agreed to a deal to get him in there, get him blocking so that we can keep the quarterback healthy. Back to defense. Chidobe Awuzie, cornerback from the Dallas Cowboys. They agreed to a 3-year deal with him. Awuzie, I feel like, had been a pretty solid cornerback for them. But, it looks like Dallas is moving more in the way of the young. They definitely got some young guys now, Diggs and somebody that they just recently drafted. It's kind of, everyone feels that they're definitely going to draft another cornerback or safety first round coming up next month in the draft because they definitely need that help there. I'm somehow got on Dallas Cowboys. But talking about the Bengals, who else they got? Mike Hilton, all right? He agrees to a 4-year deal. He used to be on the Steelers. They had to get another secondary guy to solid up that, that defense so they can keep it. Because the thing is, they were scoring. Like I said, poor Joe. Oh, man. Joe was really playing his heart out in these games, trying to keep up with these other great veteran quarterbacks specifically in these games. Even coming in a tie with one, you just got to help him out here. You help him, I'm sure he'll help you. Larry Ogunjobi, I believe. Sorry if I butchered that. But yeah, the former defensive tackle agreed to a 1-year deal. The former Browns defensive tackle, agreed to a 1-year deal with the Bengals. Again, adding to that D-line, getting pressure on your quarterbacks. That'll be a great move. Good job. Mike Thomas, the receiver, not to be confused with Michael Thomas of the Saints. They just have the same name. Okay? But, yes, more depth to the receiving core. You're going to have to get somebody a little bit more, involved, I guess, than Mike Thomas, because I don't know if he's necessarily going to be a starter. Again, we don't even know what else you're going to do in the draft coming up after you draft whoever. But maybe go receiver, I'm thinking. Maybe go receiver first. Again, nothing against Mike Thomas. Mike Thomas came in. He was drafted to the Rams in 2016 out of Southern Mississippi, which I like seeing teams come from outside those huge name ones and stuff like that. So seeing guys do their thing there. But just as scrutinized before, this is somebody that never had he's barely had 100-yard season. Okay, it's not good. He scored 1 touchdown in his 4 years in the league. There's a reason we don't know this guy. Okay, sorry, Mike Thomas. I'm just saying, just being real. Clearly, you're talented. You're in the NFL, but we're talking about moving that needle to take a team like the Bengals to first place in the possibly, arguably toughest division as of right now in the NFL. All right? Like I said, you got to get points on the board. I say points on the board first, then worry about defending. Now, they say defense wins championships. Makes sense. I'm an aggressive person as far as, even though I was an offensive player, I'm all about, go hard or go home, which the defense is usually the heart and soul of that aspect of, going hard and being very aggressive, right? Because you want to rock guys up and rough them up so that they have, be a little off their game. So get some weapons for Joe so that Joe can do what Joe was doing at LSU. Will they completely transfer over? I mean, this is different guys. This is different coaching staff. I understand that. But at the end of the day, I think he can make it happen. All right? So, that's all I can do for now. Those two AFC East and AFC North divisions. So, definitely going to continue on with the I might continue on with the AFC, or I might get to the NFC, and we'll just kind of go back and forth. I'll decide that. We'll see. But, you'll catch up. So, basically, you'll be hearing about all of this for the next 3 episodes. We'll be doing those minimum 3 episodes, talking about getting teams from the bottom to the top. The Jets, the Bengals. We all know the NFL is very unpredictable, and we've seen teams move around before. We've seen when the Cleveland Browns were at the bottom, and now they're very aggressive. You see, remember when the Dolphins were at the bottom, and now they're better. So, stay tuned. We're going to take another quick commercial break, and then I'm going to bring to you 10 amazing receivers. Why they are. This one's crazy. This one's way harder than the quarterbacks, but we're going to get to it. So, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
patient and listening to those lovely ads and music. Hey, thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Football Podcast with your boy DJ Youngs. I'm happy to be here. We talked about new news in the first segment, broke down two divisions, underdogs, and what it's going to take for them to become a top contender in the division and make it to the playoffs this upcoming season. In my last segment, this segment, I'll be doing 20 through 11 of the top 20 receivers in the league. Now, I have a confession. There's a lot of personal sides in this, and it's really because I just could not listen to the voices in the back of my head regardless of everything else we know, okay? It's my list, so I can do that regardless. But, sorry if that was too loud. It was really tough. I said this was way harder than the quarterback, the defensive lineman. If I'm being honest, I think this is going to be the toughest one, period, out of all the ones I do. Mainly because, one, there's so many talented receivers in the league. Two, we've unfortunately, being that it's a contact sport, and especially being what happened last season with COVID, there's a lot of guys that's been banged up over the last 2 years or so, and we've been missing them. And then three, being a receiver is clearly a dependent position. So you need a quarterback, a good team, a good offensive line to protect the quarterback and able to give them time to get you the ball. No matter how good a route runner or how fast you are and get open, the quarterback got to get the ball there. So that deviates a lot of the stats and makes things different. But a lot of this, like I said, I have a history of being a quarterback, but mostly more familiar with the receiver end, as that's what I did toward the end of my football career. So I know what a good receiver it looks like. I know I can talk about the guys that have the strong hands, that are fast, have the speed, have the good route running, are very elusive, things of that nature. So ranking them based off of that information, which most of that isn't necessarily quantified statistics anywhere online. So if you watch enough ball like me, then you'll know what I'm talking about when you see it. And if not, then believe me when I tell you about these guys, all right? So, like I said, my confession is I don't even know if I agree with this list completely. It was just really hard to ignore some people, and it was really hard to take people off the list, especially like, dang, they should be on here, but I don't want to put them above this person, so forth, so on. Enough about that, okay? Let's talk these receivers, all right? First up, number 20 on my list, a part of the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, giving hints before I say it. Their number one receiver, Adam Thielen. Okay, Adam Thielen, top 20. Yes. I mean, once you hear the rest of 19, maybe you agree, maybe you won't. Especially once you hear the individuals that didn't make it. But, hey, you can't ignore what Adam Thielen has been doing in Minnesota when Diggs was there and when he left. A lot of times when a powerful receiver leaves a team, it makes it harder on the next guy, which Adam and Stephon Diggs were probably arguably, you can go back and forth on who their number one receiver was then, right? Adam Thielen has had 2 1,000-plus seasons in 2017 and 2018, which is when Diggs was there. So, it's like I said, it was a debate. I remember specifically being in a debate about it not too long ago when he was there on who was the better receiver. But yeah, Adam Thielen this past season, though, had PR'd, personal record, his touchdowns in the season. So he played 15 games, one he had to sit out. He had 108 targets as their number one receiver, which that is his third highest targets in a season. Of course, the other two were higher when he did over 1,000. But he caught 74 of those balls. All right, he got 925 yards, so just a little shy of 1,000 this season. But like I said, PR'd on touchdowns with 14 touchdowns. All right, 14 touchdowns this season from Adam Thielen. Where does that put him on the list for the league? Well, for regular season touchdowns by receivers, he's third. So only 2 other people in the league have more touchdowns than him at his position. All right? And yet, he's number 20 on this list. All right? But like I said, that's more so of I know what everybody's capable of. What I do like, what Adam Thielen is really good at, the reason he's even here, why he's relevant, why he's top receiver in this game is that route running. He can run himself a route, man. He, like I said, he's one of those guys that you got to try your hardest to keep up with. And what else does he do? He doesn't fumble. He didn't fumble this season. That's a great statistic to have. Is not fumbling throughout his whole career, being drafted all the way back in 2014. I'm sorry. He did not get drafted. He got picked up out of Minnesota State. I'm not even going to try to say the last part of it. But only 5. He had a real tough season. I mean, when you get the ball more, you have more likely chance of losing. So he lost the most back when he was catching the most, right? But since then, he did no fumbles this past season, the season before that, anything like that. All right, now too much time on him. Next up, number 19. Oh, I forgot to disclaim this. So just like how when it came to defensive linemen, you got those linebackers sometimes on the edge that are rushing the quarterback as well, putting pressure on him. I counted those in the defensive lineman ranking. When it comes to nickelbacks, I'll count them with the DBs and safeties. And when it comes to tight ends, they will be with the receivers here in this bunch. So, next up, no one other than San Francisco's George Kittle at number 19. I told you before, I liked him for a long time now. Came in 2017 and has been doing his thing for San Francisco. He's had 2 1,000-yard seasons. All right, not saying, and he could definitely block, but hey, when you got a catching tight end, a big strong hand running over, that's who George Kittle is. That's who Gronk used to be. And I don't even know if like Gronk just doesn't have it anymore. I think it's more so he wants to chill. I mean, this is a guy that retired and came back, right? So clearly he's like, hey, I'm coming back because have some fun, but I don't want to do too much. So but yeah, George Kittle is strong. Granted, he did miss half this season, injury, foot issues, things of that nature. But in that time, he was able to score 2 touchdowns, get 634 yards. And when he comes back, that's someone that I told you guys is someone you're going to want to watch out for. George Kittle at number 19. No one else. Number 18. Someone that flies under the radar a lot and I believe possibly is underrated at times, and that is Allen Robinson. Okay, Allen Robinson, number 18 on the list. Allen Robinson, the second to be specific, out of Penn State in 2014, the second round of Jacksonville. Played with Jacksonville from 2014 through 2017 after getting injured. Ended up having to go to Chicago. But while he was in Chicago, I mean, shoot, that's when he started to flourish a little bit more. He did well at Jacksonville. He did have 1,000-yard season with them, but he's had 2 with Chicago. His 2020 and 2019 season, he's got above 1,000 yards. 2019, 7 touchdowns. 2020, 6 touchdowns. Again, dependent position, so it comes down to what's going on with quarterbacks, and we know Chicago has had a lot of issues going on these past season or 2 with their quarterbacks, so makes sense. Again, another guy who hasn't out fumbled. Out of all his years, he's only fumbled twice ever. So big, strong man. Definitely a number 1 receiver. So excited about him making the list because I feel like he's not talked about enough. So if you don't know who he is, now you do. All right. Now the next one could be a little controversial because I got a lot of explaining to do on why he on this list. Well, maybe just enough. Number 17 on the list is Tampa Bay, or supposedly last season Tampa Bay. We don't know what's going on later on or now. No updates yet. But Antonio Brown. Yes, AB. Yes, AB is on the list. You might even argue why he's so low. If you're asking why he's even in the top 20. Again, like I said, after you hear who's not on here, maybe you might feel that way. But we're not going to sit here and act like we don't know who Antonio Brown is. Mr. drafted in 2010, the 6th round, nobody kid from St. Michigan College. And I don't want to say nobody as in like no one knew him, but hey, you didn't know until he got to the Steelers. But this is an individual that has not only 1, not only 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, but 7 1,000-yard seasons. Reaching a peak on touchdowns in 2018 with 15, but he also had a 12, a 13, a 10. All of this with the Steelers, man, and then, after 2018, things kind of went left. A lot of stuff was going on with him and them, so he had to leave, of course. Ended up with the Patriots. Tom Brady got him out there. Only got to play 1 game, though. It was sad, but in that 1 game, that first game, Tom was able to get him a touchdown in there. So, and then when he got him to Tampa Bay with him, he was only able to play 8 games. Got him 4 touchdowns, and he was helpful in the off season. I mean, in the the postseason, very much so, taking them where they need to go. But what's important here? What do we need to focus on here? Why is he here? Being that, what have you done for me lately? It's not much, right? Antonio Brown is, regardless of whatever is going on in his head, in his world, in his life, which prayers, always hoping that it's something positive and, happy for himself. But that man can run a route. Possibly, easily, one of not 2, the best route runners in the game. That's why he's always relevant. That's why no matter what's going on with the world and himself outside of the NFL, he's still making it on teams, right? When you have a chance to have a freak athlete, take advantage of it, right? There's something that you just can't pass up unless whatever the burden is far beyond the production. That's how the NFL coaching staff and owners measure these guys. Is whatever is, your burden, your heavy package, is your production on my team heavier? Will you make a bigger difference than bring bigger problems? Clearly, him and Tom Brady have some type of relationship to where Tom Brady has him calm or comfortable for the most part. We know Bruce B.A., coach of Tampa Bay Buccaneers, originally did not want Antonio Brown on his team, but I guess, Tom Brady was able to convince him. Fair. I'm glad to see that was able to happen because he is elite. All right? If you don't understand why he's there, then I don't know what to tell you. All right? Best route runner, there is, almost. But he's at number 17 because not much has been going on. If he'd been in the game, playing 16 games a year, still going off, having his 1,000, he'd easily be in top 3. I'm sure of it. All right? Number 16. Going across again to a tight end. That tight end being Darren Waller with the Las Vegas Raiders. Man, this guy has been jumping off the screen these last 2 seasons. 2019, 2020, while he's been in Oakland, he did get drafted in 2015 for those that didn't know. Late 6th round pick for Baltimore, and then we didn't hear much of him in Baltimore. Guess they wasn't really using him like that. That's for sure. He didn't play too many games. But then he got to Oakland, still played a little. When he first got there, only got to play 4 games. But these last 2 seasons, he's been playing 16 games. He's been having over 1,000-yard seasons. He scored 3 touchdowns in 2019 and 9 touchdowns this past season. Big, strong. Oh, my goodness. Just watching him work, helping them get the defeat over big teams like Kansas City, very impressive. Darren Waller came out of Georgia Tech. If that wasn't mentioned, that's a tight end that deserves to be on the top 20 receivers because even though it's more so just been recently in the last 2 years, you see why though, right? You see why. And guess what? I don't think he's slowing down. I think he's going to keep going. It's going to be something nice to watch. He's going to be somebody that's a household name a lot more than he already is, such as the Travis Kelce and the Rob Gronkowski's. Darren Waller, if you don't know who he is, I'm telling you now, this is the guy. This is the tight end you will be hearing about for coming years, quite possibly with the Raiders, because I don't see why they would ever get rid of him. Young guy, too. Only 28. All right. Next up, have we made it halfway? No. Kind of. Yeah, we have. So, number 15 on the list, A.J. Brown. Yes, A.J. Brown, Tennessee Titans. You made the right decision with this one. A.J. Brown just came in the league in 2019. They got him in the 2nd round out of Ole Miss. A finesse is what I call it. Because in his time with Tennessee, 2019-2020 season, he missed 2 games this past year. But regardless of all that, he has over 1,000 yards both seasons. Coming straight in. It's rare. Like, these receivers that I've been talking about, a lot of them didn't, if not all of them, the ones I've already named, don't have 1,000-yard seasons in the first year. I mean, they also don't have Derrick Henry in the backfield making that play action so amazing. But clearly, this brother was showing off and showing out. 11 touchdowns this past season, averaging 15.4 yards a catch. The year before that, he was doing 20.2. So he's getting downfield, he's getting the yards, strong, and getting in the end zone. Catches in the end zone have been great. He's definitely been making a lot of highlight reels. Now he does have 3 fumbles. Let me try to balance it out a little bit here. I'm saying all that. He does have 3 fumbles. But this is somebody that equated 126 points for this team. Because he also had a rushing. He also had a rushing touchdown, okay? So 8 receivings, 1 rushing with 9 total. Good job. Oh, wait. No, I said he had 11. That was for the 2019 season. The 2020 season, he does not have a rushing. He just has 11 receiving, and he has 1 return. So that gives him 12 touchdowns on the season. All right. So A.J. Brown, hey, again, like I just said about Darren, this is somebody that's going to be balling for quite some time. I'm going to mention it a little bit later, but he's somebody that's still young that just got to the game, so he'll be here for a little while. And we just started a 17-game season. He's been doing 1,000 yards already with 16. What are we about to see happen? I'll talk more about that later, though. Number 14. Number 14 is on the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, no one other than Amari Cooper, the first-round pick in 2015, 4th pick to be that, first-round, 4th pick out of Alabama, been balling. But, it was a lot of questions on him coming from Oakland to Dallas. Didn't know what exactly was going to happen there because he was doing good when he first got here. Like I said, it's rare that the rookie receivers have over 1,000 yards, but this Amari is someone that did. He did have it in his first 2 years, which kind of projects to you what we could possibly see from AJ as long as he stays healthy, right? Because then Amari had little complications, got injured, missed quite a few games over the next 3 years. But in Dallas, he gets to Dallas, he's healthy, they pay him his money, and he's going off. He's catching the ball in 2019 79 times for 1,189 yards, 8 touchdowns. In 2020, this past season, even with his number 1 quarterback going down, he still catches 92 balls, 1,114 yards, 5 touchdowns. No fumbles. He hasn't fumbled in 3 years. He hasn't lost the ball in 3 years. That's ball security. This is someone that is that gave this team 32 points this season. Okay, 5 receiving, 5 touchdowns, 1 2-point conversion. That's how you get that. All right. Now, this one, I believe, my next one, this is somebody that you can't ignore. I feel like for whatever reason, he's not that flashy, so he doesn't have the biggest name. People know him, of course, if you play ball. I mean, if you watch the ball games or whatever like that. But I believe some people might not even know who this person is or would possibly leave him out the top 20. But I'm about to tell you why you can't. That individual, number 13 on my list, is no one other than the Seattle Seahawks, Tyler Lockett. Wide receiver out of Kansas State back in 2015 to the Seahawks. He's played all his season with him, and someone who has only missed 1 single game their entire time in the NFL. That was back in 2016. But he's only gotten better. Like, literally only gotten better since 2015. And you can literally see it in his numbers as they increase over time from the 500 yards to the 900 to the last 2 seasons, over 1,000 yards. Over 1,000 yards and catches some incredible balls from Russell Wilson. Oh, my goodness. The balls that this young man catches in the end zone. He has 100 receptions on the season. This past season, 100 reception on 132 targets. I guess if Russ didn't get hit those 40 times, however many hundreds of times he's been hit, maybe it could have been more. Easily. But he had 10 touchdowns. And, I mean, clearly, he might have a partner that's also on this list at some point. But like when you come to teams that have multiple receivers and they can both be elite, it is hard to shut that down. Now, Seahawks didn't win the Super Bowl, so clearly someone shut it down. But Tyler Lockett deserves a spot on this list, and I believe he earns where it is. He's very fast. He knows how to get behind the defenses, which is how he's getting into these end zones and scoring these touchdowns. All right, Tyler Lockett's number 13. Number 12. My hint is he is someone that just got to sign a 1-year deal so that he can stay with his Super Bowl winning Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No one other than Chris Godwin. Yes, Chris Godwin, drafted in 2017 out of Penn State in the 3rd round. This brother has been electrifying in the league. Okay, missed a couple games, had a little issues, but after last season, when you saw him go well over 1,000 yards, in 2019, let me not confuse you guys. After seeing him go in 2019, well over 1,000 yards, only playing 14 games, had 9 touchdowns, they had to bring him back. Then he comes in and he was elite because Tom Brady he saw that and he was like, oh, this guy is going to be a great help. But he also has other weapons. Again, another team that might have someone else on this list at some point in time. Tom Brady had weapons, man. Oh, he had weapons. Don't be surprised if we see more than 2. We'll see. But Chris Godwin, a stud, can definitely route run, has strong hands, do not really drop the ball ever, okay? Less than 20 for sure. And I'm talking about over the whole season. But, yeah, like I said, got in the end zone 7 times, only 1 fumble, which he did not lose. But other than that, solid receiver, okay? 43 first downs. Get the ball down the field. Good job, Chris Godwin. All right. Now, the final one that you guys will be getting today, number 11. Someone that doesn't have that much tape except for now, but it's so much to go off of because it was so impressive. So, yes, he is a rookie. The rookie of the Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson, number 11. All right. This brother came in out of LSU and was blazing around the league. No one could stop him. 16 games, 88 receptions, 1,400 yards, averaging 15.9 a catch, 7 touchdowns. That's all I need to see. I'm proud of you. Where does Justin Jefferson stand? Justin Jefferson, number 4. Whoops. Did that again. Sorry, guys. Justin Jefferson was number 4 overall in yards. Okay? So, seeing that come from a rookie in a place like that, again, he's on the same team as Adam Thielen, who was on this list. So, another team that has multiple people. Wow. Some of these teams are hogging all the receivers, man. It's almost not fair. But, yes. If you haven't noticed, that alarm means it's time. All right. Next week. I keep wanting to say next week like this is weekly, but you guys see me twice a week. I always forget that part. Or hear from me, not see me. So, next episode, you will get 10 through 1. From what you heard now, you could probably guesstimate who will be in the top 10. Can you pick the same order? We'll find out. All right. It's time for a quick commercial break before we go into our last segment. Stay tuned.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back. All right, and we're back. Thank you for your patience and listening to those quick commercials and fantastic music. Again, I am your host, DJ Youngs. This is the GSMC Football Podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. We made it to the last segment, guys. Started off with new news, discussed some teams making it from the bottom to the top in their division, gave you guys 10 of my top 20, so numbers 20 through 11 on my top receivers in the league currently, not including the guys that are about to get drafted, which I believe are going to be some standout guys. I think this draft is actually very exciting. Maybe I'm just really into it, but could just be me, could not just be. We will see. Either way it goes, we're on the final one where we're just going to discuss a little bit on what's been in talks the most, what have most people been debating on these debate shows, discussing on all media platforms just in general. I want to kind of give some perspective, my thoughts, and what I see on both sides of these debates, okay? Of course, first one we're going to start off with is the 17-game season. So, as I mentioned earlier, giving you all the facts, this fall will be the first 17-game regular season in NFL history. Based off the collective bargaining agreement they agreed upon last year. They could start 17 games as early as this season, which the owners of the teams voted on putting through after, of course, they put that in involvement with their TV deal that they just, signed away, what was that, last month. So, that bargaining agreement also goes through 2030. So I mentioned earlier that means this will probably be going on for quite some time, all the way to 2030. You might forget that 16 games existed. Super Bowl moved to the 13th of February away from the 6th when it originally was. Teams only getting one bye because this is 18 straight weeks. That's the extra week is going directly added on. No more than 1 week has been added, so there is no 2 byes for teams, just one, still 1 week break. 3 preseason games so that they can make their 20 before the postseason. So yes, no more 8-8 Cowboys or anybody else out there. And for that last game, it'll be the interconference division played based off of the last who they played 2 years ago, which means that the AFC East teams are Whoa, that was a tongue twist. Playing the NFC East teams, NFC North teams are playing the AFC West teams. NFC South teams will be playing the AFC South teams, and NFC West teams will play the AFC South teams. They determine the matchups based off looking at the pairs and seeing which teams finished in which spots in the standings in 2020. The Washington football team, which finished first in the NFC East last season, would play its extra game against the Buffalo Bills, who finished first in the AFC East. Okay, Chicago Bears, who finished second in the NFC North, would play the Las Vegas Raiders, who finished second in the AFC West. The Carolina Panthers, who finished third in the AFC South, would play the Houston Texans, who finished third in the AFC South. And so forth, so on. You get that kind of picture of them lining up based off of what happened last year. As you know, things are going to be different this year. So some of these are going to be better matchups than we possibly thought. Some of these are probably going to be worse matchups than we thought. But at the end of the day, what's the debate here? What's going on both sides? One side, you got players, most vocal so far that we mostly heard of is Alvin Kamara saying that it is dumb. He said that, having that extra game is dumb. Now, kind of give you perspective on why'd they agree if they didn't really want to play it, right? Well, it was actually a very close vote. Literally, when they were voting for this, the sentiments, the people that voted, which is about 2,000 guys, to get it ratified, the vote was 1,019 to 959. So literally out of 2,000 people, 60 people difference. Very, very close. It was literally borderline, as you see, right, on what they were going to do. So clearly that means that this is pretty much a 50-50 split feeling among players, more than likely. So you got players that are not going to like this. You got players that are okay with it, I guess. But the reason that the players are not a fan of this is because they're saying, thinking about their bodies, longevity, things of that nature, right? Fair. I understand that this is adding the game a little more intense. It's already all the kind of rules being manipulated as far as how you guys plan. Timing is always key, and victory as well. Add another game along with them having the flexible schedules, being able to move games. Clearly, all of this is possibly not in the best favor of what some players want. But in defense for the league, for the owners on the opposite side, I mean, you guys, it's one game. If you guys are you're athletes, it's not like it's a free game. You're technically still getting paid for it. So, I mean, and on top of that, I mean, if you didn't want to play or if you're not needed to play, shoot, you might not even end up playing that game because half the time, top players, which are some of the ones that might be complaining right now, sit out if their team is making the playoffs. They don't want them to get injured playing in a game that may not even matter, right? But it's like it also could are they making more money? Well, technically, because as I described in my episode where I broke down the calorie sap and all of that looks like, the 48, 49%, or really I think it's less than that. It might be 47. Yeah, about 47, almost 48% that goes to players from the league revenue is only going to increase. That number specifically, and I believe that due to the media kicker, the new deal, that they're actually going to increase it for them up to about 48, 49, close to that end. Like literally, that TV deal was huge. The TV deal represents 60% revenue increase over like whatever the old deals were. So this is a big deal for them. It's definitely going to mean more money. Why do the contracts go up every year? Like I said, and that's because they have more money coming in every year. So they have more money to distribute to the players, which gets these guys continuously getting bigger contracts. So, that sounds good for, long term. So younger guys that are coming in the league, what about the guys that are in there now, right? Well, something else that was described in that same episode, how I described how the contracts work, are most players' contracts are heavier on the end of it, right? So they give you the bonus, start you off with a real low salary or something like that, so that you don't hit the cap too hard. The second year you make the deal is more so on the later end. And the reason that's important is because they are getting a little bit more money as far as like a paycheck because they're getting paid for an extra game, right? Apparently, in the CBA agreement is specifically players' base salary is if their base salary is higher than the minimum number of a player. That any player whose base salary is higher than the minimum number for a player of his service time will be eligible to receive an extra game check as long as it abides by most of the rules, which the main one being that this contract was before February 26, 2020, because at that point they are saying that you knew that there was that there will be 17 games basically. After the collective bargaining agreement went through, you knew that, at the earliest this season coming up could have 17 games. So they're not going to count them. But the extra check is 1/17 of the base salary, which that could be a lot depending on if you're somebody whose contract came before then and is that much. Someone that specifically was pointed out in an article was Jimmy Garoppolo, for example. His base salary for this upcoming season is $23.8 million, which means he'll get an additional, his extra check is going to be $1.4 million. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with an extra $1.4 million. Now, granted, I know that's Jimmy Garoppolo. That's probably no one else is probably going to make that much. But still, getting whatever your breakdown was for 1 of 16, okay, add another game, it's going to be a little bit lower. But guess what? It's still more. It's an extra amount on there, right? So, I mean, be happy with that. Of course, that means the schedule payment changed just a little bit, but I just talked about it from the perspective of the player. I just talked about it from the perspective of the organizations, possibly, as far as the NFL and ownership. Now let me talk about it as a fan. As a fan. Oh, as a fan that does not have a team to stress me out, that just gets to enjoy to watch football week in and week out. So lovely. I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. I hope you guys stay healthy. I hope nothing goes wrong. Don't get me wrong, but I want to watch some more football. Look, we are right now. It's the off season. Anybody that's listening to this, trust me, I know how you feel. Me and the fans, we all are getting in day by day by just getting a taste of whatever comes on ESPN. I mean, right now it's clearly basketball. It's March, so March Madness going up. Shout out to University of Houston Cougars. All right, in the Final Four. I'm rooting for you boys. But no football is tough. I mean, there's some spring ball. I've been watching a little bit of that spring ball going on because COVID. We got some team, a lot of HBCUs and some D2, D3 leagues going at it. But one extra game, I don't even care. Now, first of all, some of these matchups, based off of what we know, it's lit. I can't wait to see it. Some of those being, I actually am going to be excited to see the Cowboys play the Patriots, because the Patriots, you saw what they're doing. And the Cowboys, we just can't ignore them as much as we want to. We can't. Seahawks and Steelers, both of those two teams were the two teams that I believe. I know the Steelers for a fact, and I remember the Seahawks going for a little while, but they had the longest running streaks this past season as far as being undefeated. Both powerful offenses with stable defenses. Amazing. All right. Rams and Ravens. Cardinals and Browns. With Kyler versus that Browns defense. Seeing him run away from Myles Garrett might be entertaining. They might have to make a cartoon of that. But no, he's still going to make a play or D-hop. So that's going to be exciting. Bucks and Colts, I believe, will be a solid one, depending on what all happened with Wentz. We definitely got to see how he's going to do out there in Indy. If he, becomes something strong for them, then again, another very exciting game. But yeah, so like I said, it brings some pretty cool games to us. Oh, another one that, depending on what all happens in this draft, Falcons versus the Jaguars. If the Falcons grab themselves a QB, and he turns out to surprise us as much as Justin Herbert did with the Chargers, going against Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, that's exciting. Can't wait to see that. But yeah, the games themselves, like right now, before us even finding out more about it, sound like they're going to be dope. All right, that's my opinions on that. How I'm as a fan, like I said, I'm excited. I can't wait to see what happens that way. All right. Something else, a lot of people, which it came out, very soon. It came out just Tuesday, that the NFL is expecting 100% basically occupancy in the stadiums. Now, me basically talking about this is me giving my opinion on sporting events, I guess, during COVID. So, something I know basketball's doing is they're having some special section down in the bowl. I think that's what they call it, for people that have gotten the vaccine. I get both doses of it. Most of the time, it's still limited. A lot of football stadiums are not only huge, but outdoors. So I guess that makes it safer. Definitely. I just want everybody to be okay. We don't want to have everybody any tragedies of things going. Half the time we can't even tell where it came from, but at the same time, it's like fans want to be fans. We want to enjoy the experience. We want to have a great time, but not at the risk of harming people around us, right? So that's why it's important to wear the mask, wash our hands, do everything possible to keep the spread low, because obviously we can't stay in our houses forever. So again, I mentioned it earlier. It's weird that the NFL would say that specifically, being that it's not on them, it's more so on the organizations and their states. We will see. don't think it probably. Me personally, I don't think everybody's going to go to 100. I could definitely see states like Texas, Florida, Georgia, definitely being able to do it. California, probably not. Probably not going to be 100. But it'll still be enough to keep the games interested. They're going to be way more than there were this past season. I know that for a fact, which thank goodness. All right, so my quick little spill on what's going on with Deshaun Watson. Like I said, Deshaun, such a great athlete. You want to try your best not to let that fog your memory or judgment or anything while you're trying to assess these situations. Things like this happen. Things like this come up. Media can spin it however they want to. We can only get the information that's given to us. Clearly, heavily hearing from the plaintiff side. Okay, so that number has gotten up to 19 accusers. That is a ton. That is a lot. Okay, 19 civil lawsuits are being placed. Again, emphasis on civil, guys, because a lot of people hear what it's about because it's like, oh, alleged inappropriate behavior or sexual assault, and automatically assume criminal. We can't go criminal. This is not a criminal case. All right. What I always say, I believe I mentioned it before, is that in this situation, I believe it's very important to not dismiss anyone, to wait till we get as much information as possible, facts come out, things of that nature, hear this, go to court, which that's what it's doing, or if it's going to get settled now. There was word that, Deshaun was possibly doing some tampering because he might have been deleting some messages, I believe on Instagram or something like it, because I think that's like the only thing you could delete messages on, to these individuals that are accusing him to, possibly settle it on the side. Now, my personal take on that is that sounds very suspicious to me. Not that he's doing it, but that it's only like, allegedly that's what he's doing and that's what they're saying. But you guys didn't have any proof. You're telling me that immediately if you're in the middle of this and he DMs you saying, hey, let's talk about this and settle this, you're not screenshotting that? Now, maybe it came from somebody else. Maybe it came from somebody within his organization, so that's why it may have not mattered because, it could be dismissed as, oh, that person did that on their own. But regardless, definitely got to wait till evidence come out, guys. We need some hard evidence because right now it's all just words. We're just hearing stuff. I mentioned before that it's a very suspicious timing of it. But at the same time, it's like, why? I don't see this being something that would help the Texans at all. I hear a lot of rumors. We hear that the owner is a part of the firm, like he's a client of the firm that's actually suing or putting these lawsuits on Deshaun. Apparently, he grew up next door to this lawyer, and his family's been a part of their family for. There's a lot of things you hear. You hear a lot of people say things of nature like, why would Deshaun even be there? He has team doctors, masseuse, things of that nature. He wouldn't have to go there. I've seen footage of him having interactions at home, playing some games and stuff like that with formerly known adult actresses. But, I mean, again, everyone's adults in these situations. It could have been consensual and things turned left, possibly, but then again you get the argument, but there's such a high number, why that? I mean, hey, I hear it all. I understand. This is something that I do not have an argument in, as in like, no, that completely doesn't make sense, or obviously if it's that many people, that's the case, because like I said, we gotta wait, guys. Everybody gotta be patient. We live in a fast food society who wants fast action, fast answers, and sometimes that doesn't work like that, especially in our legal system. Our legal system takes its time, like severely, right? So being that that's the case, this is going to have to play out. We're going to have to let it play out all the way. I don't know what the NFL is going to do. I know they said they're also investigating, which is great, I guess, to have, you know, a third side to all of this. But the season's going to be here soon. Season's in 5 months. Starts in September. And with it approaching so quickly, and we know that this isn't going to come to an end. Because the thing is, let's say, again, it's civil, not criminal. So say some come back, you know, guilty, some come back, you know, innocent. Or all of them go one way, all of them go the other way. One, this is going to forever be attached to his name, unfortunately, regardless if he's innocent or guilty. But on the guilty side, or partially guilty side, like, what does the NFL do, right? Of course, it's against policy and things of that nature, but this is also, I think, a rare case of having someone at such a high point. Like, this probably the biggest one since Vic, as far as cases, right? But we definitely hope that that's not the case, or at least I do. Hoping that, you know, everybody gets the justice that is deserved, regardless if that is for Deshaun or for against the accusers. All right, but that's all we got for today, man. All the new news you got some talk on the Bengals and Jets making it to the top of their divisions. Then we talked about some of my top 20 receivers, and last we just discussed what some of the debates are on these streets, man, on what's everybody talking about in the football world back and forth this past week. So next episode's going to be out on Monday. A lot of this is going to be part 2s because I'm going to continue on with the bottom to the top players. I'm going to talk about the receivers, and I think I might do another debate one, depending on if some more good conversations and talk pieces come up, possibly more added, even like, you know, to the Deshaun one, since people just keep coming out of the woods here. But as usual, thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. Appreciate you. This is the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask if you please remember to subscribe to the show and write some reviews. Tell me what you think about the show. Tell me what you think about the content. Tell me what you think about me. I hope I'm keeping your attention. Also, if you would please go follow us on football. What in the world? See, it's all on my mind. On Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, GSMC_football. Thank you so much. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night. Everyone have a beautiful time, night, day, whatever it is. Farewell. All right, I'll speak to you soon.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.